Today we're here with the 860 Avant. The 860 is the largest of the 5 models that we have. Some of the features on the Avant are that it's rated at 3,500 pounds lift capacity, and that's measured 16 inches out on the forks. If you hang a 3,500 pound weight on the forks at 16 inches, we should handle 3,500 pounds. The machine itself weighs, the way we have it set up, is about 6,500 pounds. We have 500 pounds of rear corner weights, and then we build a bumper that we put on it, and that's 400 pounds. So we're into the 6,500 ranges with this machine. The boom on the 860 extends 3 feet. It's one of the big differences between the 860 and the other models. It has 2 tilt cylinders instead of 1 tilt cylinder. On the original Avants, you ran out of tilt before you ran out of lift. On these 860s, you run out of lift before you run out of tilt. It makes it really nice for the landscapers lifting heavy loads of blocks, that kind of stuff. You can get a lot more weight picked up with this machine than you can the other ones. The engine is a Kohler/Lombardini, 57 horsepower. The 2-speed in the 860 is standard. Their low range goes 11 mile an hour and high range goes 18, which makes it a really nice road machine to do snow and that kind of stuff. If you need to move from one job site to another, the 860 will travel at 18 mile an hour. These machines articulate but do not oscillate, which means the frame is solid. It does not twist. That gives you an advantage if you're on a slope, on a hillside. You don't need to worry about it trying to twist on you and flip. They are all-wheel drive. There is a hydraulic motor, drive motor on each corner of the machine, and they can be locked in. Now the lock valve makes a differential lock side to side instead of like a pickup which goes transverse. But it is very effective. One of the things that the Avants have over a skid loader is that they are a higher clearance, they're a narrower track, and they're all-time 4-wheel drive. They do not get stuck near as easily as a skid loader. The 860 comes with air in the cab. You can buy it with an open station or with a cab, and the cabs all have air in it at this point. Today we're looking at the interior controls on an 860 GT cab Avant. This is your headlight switch. Here's your parking brake, and it is electric. As soon as you shut the motor off, the oil pressure will put the parking brake on. This is your hydraulic coupler release. Your 2-speed switch is here, the rabbit and the turtle, and I will say again, never switch that on the fly. After a while it'll take the drive motors out, and that's not a happy time. Boom float is here. Then the switch is down on the panel. This is a lock valve. This would make the 2 on the side drive together. If the left front wheel is spinning and you flip that valve on, that puts all the oil from the left front wheel to the 2 right wheels. Kind of like a diff lock, only it's a transverse thing. Heated seat is standard. These machines come from Finland where it's cold, so that's standard. This next switch is your headlight, and that's the lower lights. 1 pump, 2 pump is strictly on your hydraulic attachments. If you have a flail mower, you would want to run it in pump 2. It's twice as fast as the other. Switches on the joystick, the red and the blue button run the auxiliary as well as this lever. Everything up here is electric over hydraulic. This is manual. If you're running a flail mower and you want to lock it in, you simply pull that lever over and lock it. If you're running a post hole digger, you probably would use the buttons to go on and off. This rocker switch is your boom extension. One side goes out, the other goes in, as well as this lever is also your in and out. Now, if you're wanting to feather it, you have to use the manual ones. These are electric over hydraulic, and there's no feathering. It's either on or off. This is not standard on all of them. This is just set up so that if you have something with electrical controls, you can run them from them. This is your fan control. This is your temperature control. Your air conditioner switch is here. It's a rocker switch, turns it on and off. Today we're looking at the Avant 700 series. This happens to be the 755. it comes in a 735, 755, and 760. The difference between the three models, the 735 has a Kubota mechanical engine in it. The 755 and 760 have a Kohler/Lombardini, and the 760 is a two-speed. The frame size, the lift, the boom, everything else is exactly the same. It just has to do with the engine and the power. The 700 booms extend 2.5 feet, and I have this one extended, fully extended. It's rated at 3,500 pounds of pickup with the boom fully retracted and 16 inches out on the forks. If you hang 3,500 out there, it'll pick it up. I'm not afraid of a ton on the forks with the boom fully extended, so it's around a 2,000 pound lift. It's a little smaller than the 860. It weighs, the way it's set up now, weighs around 5,200 pounds and still picks up 3,500, so it's a good ratio in the pickup to go. The advantage of the 735 is that it's less money. It has less horsepower. If you don't need the horsepower to dig and push, it's fine for lifting. I'm not afraid to use it as a four-wheel drive forklift. It does a fine job for that. Landscapers, if they're not doing a lot of digging, they can get away with the 735. If you are doing a lot of digging or have snow removal, then the 755 and 760 are your go-to machines. The 755 ground speed is 11 mile an hour. The ground speed on a 760 with a two-speed is 18 mile an hour. So if getting from one job site to another is critical, then that's the way you want to go. We sell these with the GT cab, some with heat, some with air, and we also sell them without a cab. If you need the cab for wintertime, it's a good deal. If you don't need the cab necessarily, I prefer the open machine. You can just see better, hear better, and I would rather operate the open machine. Wheels on the 760 are a little larger than the 755 and 735 because they have a little different drive motor. They have a little more torque on the low end, but that's basically it on the tire size. We build our own weights, our own side weights. They're 250 pounds a piece, and we like to put them on almost all of our machines. The 700s, we like to fill all four tires with fluid. It gives you about 200 pounds extra weight, smooths the ride, and we like to fill them with fluid to keep them on the ground better. We do have suitcase weights that we hang on the back. They're 80 pounds a piece, and depending on your job application, we put 2 or 3 on. Once again, they're four-wheel drive. Everything is set up exactly the same except the motor in all of these machines. So the boom controls, the four-wheel drive, all that stuff is the same. Okay, we're looking at the 600 series Avants right now. The 600 frame has been around for a long time already. Started with the 630 and the 635, 640, and this is a new model, 645. It's still the same frame as the other, and the specs are the same. This machine is rated at 2,400 pounds lift capacity with the boom retracted. The difference is they put a turboed and intercooled Kubota motor in it. If you're going to run a snowblower or that kind of a power attachment, the 645 is where you want to go. It's a much smaller machine than the other machines we looked at. This machine weighs 3,200 pounds and still picks up the 2,400 pounds. The boom on the 600s extend 2 feet instead of 2.5 like the 700s. I'm not afraid of 1,500 to 1,600 pounds with the boom extended, but I have run round hay bales up to 1,800 pounds on it, and I've not found one that I can't handle with it. However, you're up against the limit all the time when you go to your wrapped big round bales. I would much sooner see you go to a 700. This machine is nimble. The tree guys love them. They can get out in the lawn and not tear things up. The track is fairly narrow. If you put other tires on it, put special tires on it, you can get through a 48-inch gate. Standard is 51 inches. The lift height is right at 9 feet at the hinge pin, and it's a really smooth machine. The 600 has been, like I said, been around for a good while and has done a good job for us. Something that's fairly new from Avant is the wheel ties. They bolt right onto the wheel, and it is really nice for the guys that are hauling these on landscape trailers. There's no good way to strap them on a landscape trailer unless you go to the wheel. I don't like to see anybody hooked to the frame in the back. If you go over a bump, it puts a lot of stress on them. But these wheel ties, and they will fit on all of them. You can go all the way from the 400 to the 800. We're on a 645. The controls on the 600s are the same as the 500s. Very similar to the other models. This is your lock valve. It's like a differential lock. You have a 1-pump, 2-pump, which the 2-pump gives you twice as much auxiliary hydraulic flow. This switch is for your heated seat, and these are your headlights. This control moves your boom in and out, as well as this rocker switch. However, these are electric over hydraulic. This is manual. If you're loading somebody's nice F-150, you want to use the manual. This is either on or off. It jerks. These run your post hole digger or something like that, or if you're running the flail mower, you would lock this in. It locks the whole thing in. These switches control anything that's electrical, like on a snow blower where you have your spout control up and down and sideways, or a broom. Anything electrical is controlled by these switches. And they are plumbed into the faster coupler. They plug in at the same time you hook your hydraulics up. Parking brake is this button right here. It's electric. When the motor shuts off, the brakes come on. However, if you jump off the machine, I recommend you always lock the brake because it will drift slowly. This is your hydraulic disconnect. This is your throttle. This is the Avant 528. This has kind of been the flagship of Avant in our area. It's a machine that weighs 3,000 pounds and picks up 2,100 pounds on the forks. It's the same frame as the 600, but it's run by a 3-cylinder Kubota instead of a 4-cylinder, so that gives it a little less horsepower. This has been a really good machine. Tree guys, landscapers, a lot of people have bought the 528, and it will handle a ton fairly easily. Boom extends 2 feet on this machine. Once again, it's 4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, all the time. And it picks up, like I said, 2,100 pounds, and the hinge pin on this one is around 9 feet. So you can pick up round bales, big squares, about anything like that on the farm that you want to do. Makes a really nice machine for scraping. It'll get into the alleys where a skid loader won't begin to get into the alley. It turns around the post instead of having to jiggle around the post like you do with a skid loader. One of the advantages of the Avant is the hydraulics on it. You don't need to have full RPMs. Most of the time you're at a high idle to run. It doesn't change your lift capacity very much. The only time you need to be wide open is for ground speed. That's about the only thing that changes with these things. This one has the suitcase weights, the corner weights, and has the wheel tie downs. This one is basically set up to go to work in the woods. We put lights on the top, no cab. An open station just seems like it works better for the guys that are working in the woods or in the trees, that kind of work. Okay, this is the Avant 423. This is the little brother of the whole series. Machine weighs 2,000 pounds and is rated at 1,250 pounds on the boom. The one thing this does not have that all the others have is a self-leveling boom. Everything else is the same. 22 horsepower, 9-gallon-a-minute flow on the hydraulics, and all the attachments come across on this one. The big place for this one has been in the tree industry, the people who come in and take trees out of your lawn or whatever. This little machine has really done well for them. They can get through a 40-inch gate with no problem, and they can still pick up that log and don't have to cut it as often to get it drug out to the chipper. So the 423, in my opinion, is a really nice machine for the tree guys. Smaller tires, less weight. You can drive out in a lawn and not do but very little damage with this machine, where some of the other ones get pretty heavy for a lawn. Weights are not standard. That's something we put on them. You can put a rear corner weight on this that weighs 100 pounds instead of the 250 on the other ones, and then we put the rear end weights on it, suitcase weights that weigh 80 pounds each, and they go on any machine you want to put on. It's important to have the weight on the back end versus the front end, because the front end's where you're going to pick it up. When this machine's empty, when any of the Avants are empty, 70% of the weight is on the back wheels and 30% on the front. So that's important to know when you're loading on a trailer. I almost always load backwards, because if you load forward with nothing on the bucket, you may be looking at the stars pretty quick. Today we're looking at the controls on the 423, a little bit different than the other ones, but they do the same function. This is your lock valve, your differential lock valve. These are your headlights, the lower lights, and this is your heated seat. This is your auxiliary hydraulic control. If you're running a snow blower or a flail mower, you would lock it in. If you're doing post hole digger, you can use this or this. These two buttons do the same function as this lever. However, this can be feathered and these cannot. This lever does your boom extension, and the boom on this machine extends 2 feet. There is no electric control on the boom extension on this model. These lights, this switch controls your work lights up here. The throttle is here. And your automatic control for the electrics is down here. This unit has a mechanical parking brake. The other ones are all electric, but this is mechanical. Joystick functions are exactly the same as the other ones. Back is up and down is forward. This is the 220 Avant. It's the only Avant that is gas powered. All the rest of the Avants are diesels. One of the differences is this boom does not extend. It's only 20 horses. The machine only weighs 1,200 pounds. It will pick up 700 on the forks. It has enough hydraulics to run a 48-inch snowblower really nicely, or a 48-inch lawnmower. I wouldn't want to take it to the woods to do very much because it's so small and not real sure-footed. But if you're mowing lawn or have snow to blow, snow to plow, this is a really good little machine. You can get a half cab on it. It's a front window, side window, and rear window with no door on it because there's no heat in it. If you put the door on it with no heat, you will get fog, and it just becomes a pain. It's not very nice to work with. Like I said, it is gas. So it's a little more cantankerous when it's cold, but they are a very good running machine. They have lots of power, lots of hydraulics to run almost any kind of a hydraulic attachment you want to put on it. It comes standard with wheel weights on it. We do not put rear weights on these machines because they're so lightweight to start with. We are on the Avant 220. It's the only gas-powered machine we have, and the controls are very minimal. Headlights are here. Horn button is here. This lever controls your remote hydraulics. Choke is here. This happens to be a carbureted engine. Some of them are fuel injected, and your throttle is here. The joystick controls are very minimal, and it's just like the joystick on anything else.